Welcome, everybody. My name is Manny Coates. This is Bradley Sutton.
Hey, guys.
Bradley has joined Helium 10, and he's going to be the new guy that you see doing this show every week, probably multiple times per week. Ask me anything for Helium 10. And yeah, I'm on it today just to kind of make the introduction. It's going to be really cool. We're going to be answering your questions as they come in. We also have a list of questions that were already sent in. And so, yeah, we're just going to go back and forth. Questions related to Helium 10, anything that, might be at the top of your mind, just let us know, okay? And, yeah, we'll go from there. Anything you want to say?
I'm just very excited to be here. Been using Helium 10 for a while. Now I get to see behind the scenes, behind the camera with the man, Manny here. And like you said, we're going to be doing this a lot. So if you guys have any other questions, there's going to be a link in here. But if you want to write it down here, it's a helium10.com/questions. You could submit your questions for the next session here. So you ready to get started?
I'm ready. Let's do this. So where are they? So I'm not even used to this system. This is the first time. Where did the questions show up on here?
Right. Here's the first question. So
right.
Where can I find out how much products are making on Amazon?
Okay. So we're probably talking about the X-ray tool. You can also do this in Black Box, guys. So with X-ray, you just go into any search results page and click on the X-ray button, and it'll show you. It'll be a column that shows you how much the estimations are for that particular product on a given month. There's also a graph, by the way, that you can click, and it shows the daily numbers as well. So it gives you averages. So you might the monthly number, since we're tracking every single day, it might not be consistent. You might see that they did a launch. Bradley's really awesome at doing launches. You might see that there's a big spike suddenly in the middle of the month that's adding to that average.
Cool. And if you're talking about profit too, you can also kind of guesstimate it, because that same tool that he's talking about shows how much your FBA fees are going to be. So if you know the product cost, you can even calculate roughly what the profit might be there.
Yep. There's a little revenue calculator, further down on the on any product page that you go to. So if you click into a product and you're on that product page, further down below the graphs, you'll see a revenue estimator, and there's a little eye on there. We're going to be changing that, but you can mouse over that and click it, and it shows you all the breakdowns.
All right. This other question is kind of long, so I'm going to have to read the rest of it because it wouldn't take it. It says, what is the best way to determine which keywords to target? It continues, I know that Helium 10 is able to provide a list of keywords using multiple different methods, but is the keyword with the highest search volume always the choice, or is it something else? And this is a great question. So Helium 10 has multiple tools that we can use in order to determine which keywords. The first that I use is Cerebro, which is a reverse ASIN. So let's say you're doing as Manny likes to talk about, a tactical flashlight. So you search for that, and then you check what's one of the top sellers in that category. Well, you take the ASIN, plug it into Cerebro, and you can actually see all of the keywords that they're ranking for and what they're ranking high for. That's one way that you can get ideas. Another way, if you know your product is a tactical flashlight already, you can enter that into Magnet, which is also in the Helium 10 suite. And once you enter that in, it'll spit back to you a whole bunch of keywords that are related to that first search term that you put in, so that you can get some ideas. Now, one important thing about this is that you don't just plug it in there and then look at Cerebro or look at Magnet what the highest volume keyword is. What's important is that it's relevant to your product. So let's say, for example, that you want to sell a face moisturizer, and you type in face moisturizer on Magnet, and then you say that that's a pretty good keyword. Let's say eye cream comes up, for example. You actually search for eye cream in Amazon, but if everything that comes up looks different than your product, or if it's a completely different type of product, like it's a cream and your product is a gel, well, just because it came up in Cerebro or Magnet, that doesn't mean that's the keyword you should target. You always need to try and validate the results that you get to make sure that it's valid to and relevant to your product.
Yeah, that's important. I use that in the examples, guys. For example, if I type in tactical flashlight and the keyword's nightlight, which it is, right? You go into Amazon, you type in nightlight. I don't know what would come up, but it might be a lot more than flashlights. It could be candles. It could be garage door openers. It could be, you name it, right? It could be something for your gun, a light for your gun. So that's super important to go in and test those afterwards. Don't just add everything.
Yep. All right, we got another one here. It says, when you are running keyword searches, in particular reverse ASIN, Which field should you focus on? Exact phrase search volume or broad phrase search volume?
I focus on exact phrase. I want to know exactly how many people are searching for a particular phrase per month. Broad can be all over the place, right? Because you can, there's just too many variations that could possibly come up. So when I'm sorting things, I do what Bradley just talked about. I actually sort by exact match search volume, and then I start going through and I start Xing out the things that don't make sense. Okay, that I'm pretty sure aren't related to my product, or maybe I just don't want to go after. They're not super relevant. And then after that, then I'm going to go through and I'm going to start validating those keywords. The way Bradley mentioned doing it is a great way of doing it. You don't have to do it yourself, by the way, guys. If you have hundreds of keywords, you can get a VA that can do this, right? Your VA should know your products, and it's much cheaper time-wise to have them go through and do all your products. Product research is super important, though. I don't know. It's one of those things I'm always afraid of delegating. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah,
it just takes one bad keyword that's missed and they stick in there because they think it's good, and it could ruin a lot of different things.
Yep, I agree. Let's go to another one here.
These are popping up too. You want to jump into those and then we'll go back.
We
got
Jacob here. Let me go ahead and pop this up here. Jacob asks, Black Box, do you have plans to have this work for the UK and Europe?
We do have plans for that. Right now, we're focusing on the .com platform. We're trying to make it the best possible tool available for that marketplace. And then we're going to be expanding out into Europe. So it's definitely in the works. I don't have an ETA, unfortunately, for that.
All right. Next one. When you do your launch with a number of giveaways suggested, how do you make sure that many will be redeemed? If you fall short, it will take even longer to get to page one. And this is a great question. I've seen it a couple times in the Facebook groups as well. So basically, he's saying that, hey, the CPR number, there's a CPR guide that we'll link to at the end of here so you can find out more about that. But let's say it says you need to give away 50 per day. Well, how do I know that 50 per day are going to be given out? That's a great question. So what I personally have done is if I'm not sure how many coupons that I'm giving out are going to get redeemed, what I'll do is a one-day smaller test. So like, let's say I know that the price that I want to give it out at is $1. But I'm not sure how many people are interested in that. So let's say I'll allocate 50 coupons and then send them out there. But if only 25 people actually redeem it that day out of the 50 that I try and put out there, whether I'm using a service or Facebook or whatever, then I know, okay, well, maybe only half of the people that I try to put these coupons out to are actually going to redeem it. So then if I do an 8-day launch or a 2-day, 3, 4-day launch, I know the total number that I have to do. Like, let's say it's 800 total. Well, then I know if I want to get 800 coupons redeemed, I got to give out at least 1,600 coupons. So that's personally the way that I would handle that. But at the same time, it can go up or down on any given day. So you've just kind of have to monitor how many are going out. And if too many go out, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I've actually done a lot of my launches on only 1 or 2 or 3 days using what the CPR says we should do over 6 days. And so the shorter the time frame, that's not a bad thing. However, if you're only giving out 20 a day and you're supposed to give out 60 a day, well, for the subsequent days, you're going to need to give out more coupons to hit that CPR number. You do similar things with yours? Yeah,
you've done hundreds of launches. So I'm going to just listen to what you do. So yeah, no, that's pretty much what we do as well. Yeah, we've tried. We do the typical 8-day launches as well. And there's probably a question in here. I think there was, or maybe it was about the 2-day launches. Was that in here?
No, wasn't.
No. So I'll just mention that we did one by accident, and it's funny. That's how we actually started talking, because he's like, "Man, you know what? I'm doing all kinds of 2-day launches, and we're ranking to the very top." And I'm like, "It's funny because we did one by accident. We thought maybe it was just a fluke." So that seems to be one of the things. I think you were talking about it before anybody else, right? And then we saw some other people come in.
A couple months ago, I had started it. It might have been by accident for me too, as well. It was probably like 2, 3, 4 months ago. I did it by accident. It worked really well. And I was like, since I do so many launches, I was doing about 10, 15 product launches a month at one point. So I just started doing it in all of them. And once I saw that it worked, then I was like, let me start posting the Facebook groups about it.
Cool. Yeah. There you go, guys. And for those of you that asked, do launches still work? Yes, they still work.
Absolutely.
Not for everybody, obviously, because those that don't work, they post. They're the loudest.
All right, next question here. What is the best Helium 10 tool to use for seeing the individual ASIN sales for a particular keyword? So I know where the majority of sales are coming from by keyword for a particular ASIN.
So, okay, so the question,
Yeah,
I see it. Okay, got it. Individual ASIN sales for a particular keyword. So I know where the majority of sales are coming from. So if I've got this correct, you want to know how many sales are coming from specific keywords? Is that how you're reading it?
That's how I'm reading it, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this. Without doing something completely black hat, you don't know what sales are coming from what keyword. You can look into your sponsored ads and you can see your results for specific keywords for sponsored ads, and you can get, you can use those percentages as kind of a guideline. So you can say, man, I noticed that this keyword is converting at 10%. Well, all these other keywords are converting at, let's say a smaller percentage. So you know which keywords, at least for your listing, are actually converting really well. And then you can kind of use that for the rest of your listing. If you're just launching though a product and you have none of this data, you wouldn't know really. That's the CPR is kind of broad. Mm-hmm. You just kind of go out there with a big number and you can typically rank for it. It's one of the questions that we get a lot. People say this is one of the challenges that we get to the CPR methods. They're like, well, how can you just have a formula off of search volume because you don't know the conversion rate, right? So something that gets a 10% conversion rate needs way less sales than, or needs less. The traffic amount needs to be way less than something that gets a 1% conversion rate, right? That's true, but so we got to kind of average things out over the entire list of keywords that we have, and the CPR method has worked pretty well for most people for most things. But that's where Bradley has come in and said, sometimes I don't hit the number, or sometimes I go over, and that doesn't always work out perfectly. We've done a launch where we did the numbers exactly, and we we hit the top of page 2. Okay, and then we were like, oh man, we've got to put a little bit more effort, or we've got to put some more sales into it over the next 24 hours, 48 hours to jump it back onto, or to push it up to the top of page 1. And that's what we did.
Okay.
But yeah, for keywords, I know there's data being leaked out of China and stuff like that has specific numbers and things like that. But I mean, in terms of white hat, I don't see any way of doing it.
Yeah, it's me neither. I've never cracked that one either. We have another new question here from Chris. It's too long to put on screen, so I'll just read it. It says, I had Viral Launch make my listing. Should I change anything using the Helium 10 tools, or should I trust their work? My product arrives at the Amazon warehouse sometime next week, so I have some time. Well, their copywriters, I'm sure, are great, but one thing that you could use Helium 10 tools for, first of all, if you've done your own product keyword research, if not, definitely do your own product keyword research using a couple of those tools that we mentioned before, Cerebro and Magnet. Make a list of keywords. And then what I would do is I would put those list of keywords and phrases into 5K checker in Helium 10 to make sure that the listing that they created for you is indexed for all of those keywords. And if it's not, then you need to try and see how you can import it to the back end or possibly integrate it into the description that they made. So congrats on your product though.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got another question here. Another one's a little bit too long, so I won't paste it. It says, so my competitors are selling a few hundred units per month. I want to rank for a specific keyword that CPR giveaways total 8 or 1 per day. Can that be accurate? Will I be able to rank page 1 with really 1 sale a day? This is a little bit similar to the last question in that a competitor is selling a few hundred a month, but you really do not know exactly what keyword searches are generating those sales. One thing I can guarantee you is the keyword that CPR says only 8, they're not getting many sales from that. Usually exact search volume on something that a CPR number is 8 is like 100 to like 300
yes.
Per month, around there. And like you said, we don't know the conversion rate, but I would be shocked if it's more than 1 sale a day that they'd be getting from it. So what that CPR number is only for that keyword. So just because you get to page 1 on that keyword doesn't mean all of a sudden you're going to be selling 100 a day like that competitor. But to answer your question, if you give away 8 for that keyword, yes, you should rank on page 1, but that doesn't just necessarily mean you're going to get those sales.
Yeah, a good way to think about this is, let's just say that you had 100 keywords, okay, and or this competitor has 100 keywords, and every single one of these keywords generates 1 sale per month. Okay, let's just say that somehow magically they're all exactly the same number of search volume for each of those keywords, right? If you use the CPR method to rank for just 1 keyword, that's it. You're number 1 for that keyword, but not for the other 99. So you're getting 1 sale per month from that 1 keyword. So a lot of people, what they do that works pretty well is in your title, you want to incorporate as many as the big keywords as you can. And sometimes you can get 2 or 3 of them in just one phrase, right? So like, for example, let's just say, as an example, red baseball gloves is the hot keyword. Like, let's say that's one of your best keywords, right? But baseball gloves is the second best keyword. Well, red baseball gloves, since it's your primary one, also has the word baseball club, the phrase baseball gloves in it. So that one phrase has both of those covered. So if you can do that, if you can kind of tweak the title, you can start ranking for, half a dozen different keyword phrases. And the other thing we notice, unless it's changed, we've noticed this quite a bit. Every time you generate a sale on your listing, all your keywords that are in your title get a little bit of lift. So even if stuff is, you have some weird keywords, I would say weird, but lower level keywords at the end of your list or the title, those will start ranking. We've noticed we're like, wow, we went from page 20 to page 4, page 2, or bottom of page 1 for keywords that we weren't targeting, just because we were generating such velocity, right? And that because they were in the in the title, they actually moved up. So it's something else to consider. All your titles, keywords should move up, and so should the broad match of mixing and matching of the keywords in your title.
Yeah, and I've heard people say like, oh, why does Helium 10 even have all these lower end keywords, ones that only get 100 searches a month? Well, you'd be surprised that these keywords sometimes are important. Like, for example, I used to be so curious. I would see a certain, like ginseng was a category that I was looking into once, and there was 2 people on page 1 who were selling 2,000 units a month, but the number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, they were only selling like 200 or 300. I'm like, what in the world is going on? They were number 3 on the main page, but they're only selling 300 a month. But the number 1 guy is selling 2,000 a month, and it wasn't a brand name. But when I started getting into Helium 10, I started digging into it. Those guys were ranked number 1 for like 200 different keywords. And like you said, if you're ranked number 1 for a keyword that only gets a few hits a month, but you're number 1 for that, so that means you're the one who's most likely going to get that sale. And if you're ranked number 1 for like 200 of those, well, there's a lot of extra money to be had in there. So don't disregard the smaller exact search term numbers. They're very important to get indexed in your listing and get up there.
Yeah.
All right, we have another question here. This one I can go ahead and paste.
You're a pro. Look at that.
There we go. Why do some other tools show different search volumes from Helium 10?
So when we first started, our first keyword tool was Magnet, and we had search volume on there. And if you moused over it, had a description in it, or it basically said, this is estimated search volume based off of Bing data, not Google. We were using Bing at the time, with some modifiers in there that we thought kind of estimated maybe what Amazon searches would have. And that's what everybody had, right? That's all we had, because Amazon didn't have any kind of search volume. Today, Helium 10 has actual Amazon search volume. So we don't actually use any of the Bing data or Google data. A lot of the tools that are out there are still using, they're using other data. They're using Google data. So when that happens, you're going to have Amazon data like in Helium 10 versus data in Google. It's going to be drastically different, right? People that are searching on Amazon are looking to buy. People searching on Google typically are looking to research. So it's a different number. And if you're using a tool that's using that kind of data, it could be drastically off. And we've had people say, well, can I use your CPR method using this other tool? Because I'm already a member there, I pay for it. And the answer is no, don't do that, because we've seen it a million times where they choose the wrong keyword. They go by they sort by search volume, and then they'll pick the keyword that has the highest search volume. And it's on our software, it'll show the actual Amazon data. Maybe it's like number 10 on the list, and they're seeing it as number 1. So they go after that. And then when they rank for it, and they rank for it pretty easily because it's the wrong data, and then they just don't generate any sales. So that's why it's different. And that's why we recommend not doing that.
All right. Another good question.
Where's this question from?
Let's
Oh, it's over
see
here?
this one over here.
Okay.
Yep. Next one. I'm not going to paste it. It's too big. With CPR total giveaways column, do all of those have to be purchased using two-step URL, or is that just total sales? All right. This is a question I've actually seen in the groups a few times as well. Well, it's not the total sales. You have to have, whether it's a two-step URL, whatever URL it's using, it has to be a search for that keyword. That's what the CPR is. Like if you're have a CPR rank or a giveaway number of 100 that you have to give away, and you just looked up tactical flashlight, well, you need to give away 100 that result from a search for tactical flashlight. Want to elaborate on that a little bit?
No, actually, I did want to make sure. Can you guys hear us okay? I'm looking at the audio level. Is your mic, go ahead and speak into your mic.
Testing.
Can you guys hear him just as good as you can hear me? Just as well? Just want to make sure if anybody can comment. Just want to make sure,
Chris, whoever's out there.
Just want to make sure you guys can hear us okay. No, that was great. That was a great answer.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah, I'll monitor these. If I see anything, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll focus on that one there.
How can I find products that are selling well but have poorly optimized listings?
Okay, well, I think it's difficult to find fully unoptimized listings, but one of the really easy ways of doing it, low-hanging fruit, I've actually taught this, is to go into black box. Okay, if you go into black box, there's a lot of filters in there. Okay, and one of the filters, there's two filters actually that I would use, is image count. Okay, so you can say, I want to find something that has, I want to find products that only have one image, or maybe no more than 2 or 3 images. Because usually when somebody's creating a really good listing, you've maxed out all your images, right? You've filled them up. You've got lifestyle, you've got white background, you've got all kinds of different photography, and we can never have enough spaces for all the photos and for videos and for everything else, right? But if somebody only uploads 2 photos or 3 photos, they're under optimizing. They just don't know what they're doing, right? Or it's a big company that doesn't know what's going on, or maybe it's a company that hired some, I don't know, a marketing agency that's really good with other stuff, but not good on Amazon. So they upload a couple images and that's it. And they move on to the next product. And it just might happen that it just so might be that particular product is a winner and they're actually generating good sales. They're doing $20,000 a month, but it doesn't mean that they did a good job on the listing. It's just for whatever reason, maybe because of pricing or maybe because of a few things on that listing, they're actually generating those sales. So with Black Box, you can go in and you can say, okay, I want to, out of 450 million products, okay, Black Box by Helium 10 has the largest database of products on the market by far, okay? So you can go in there and you can say, I want to show all products. You can select all categories, or you can select the categories you want. Let's say it's baby or whatever, and only show me products that have 3 images or less, okay? You can put 1 to 3. Okay. And then the problem with that though, is it's going to show a lot of variations, right? Because there's a lot of things that the main product has all the images, but the variations of that product will only have 1 image. You see this all the time, but I don't want that. I want to find specific products that have no variation. So there's another filter in Black Box where it says variation count. And I can say, I don't want any variations. I basically, I'll set that at 1. Okay. One product for that whole listing. Now it's going to find only products that have 1 product that only have maybe 1 or 2 images, and it's going to show me everything. And then I can put in a dollar amount. Like I want to find products that do at least $5,000 a month. Well, let's say $10,000 a month. And if I can launch one of those every single month, right, it starts to add up. And then I go in, I look at this, and I'm like, oh my God, it looks like they took their phone and took a snapshot of it, and that's their photo. And that's the only photo they have on the product. Usually the bullets are not there. They're garbage. The title is garbage. And you can go in and you can dominate. So that would be super low hanging fruit. We're going to be adding some additional features to our tools in the near future that allow you to dig in even deeper and find even more golden opportunities.
Awesome. Another great question. Thanks. We got time for one more here. This one says, how often is the keyword ranking updated? In the morning, I compare manual ranking with Helium and sometimes have differences of 10 or more positions. Okay, so that's actually the keyword ranking in Helium 10 is changed once every 24 hours, I believe. However, that being said, there is a way to boost it. But before I get into what boost is, there's a feature that some people don't see. If they have a smaller screen, it's actually a hidden column. But if you're using a desktop computer with Helium 10 and you have a pretty wide resolution, there's a column that actually tells you when the next scheduled check is. It'll say next scheduled check in 23 hours if it just passed, or in 1 hour if it's been almost a day. But if you don't want to have to wait that long, there's a little thing that looks like a rocket ship on the left-hand side of each keyword. And then you just hit that so that it turns red. That's what we call boost. And that means Helium 10 is going to go out and check the ranking for that keyword every single hour. And it lasts like that for 10 days. So especially during a launch, you don't want to just check once a day. You want to be checking every hour to see what the results are. So I would definitely recommend using Boost if you want to make sure to have the most accurate and up to date, up to the real time almost ranking.
Yeah, and that's for keyword tracker. The first time I read that about keyword ranking, they're talking about the rank position on Magnet or Cerebro, and I'm like, oh no, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about actual keyword tracker. The other thing you mentioned here, in the morning you compare your manual ranking with Helium 10, and sometimes it's off. Okay, this can happen for a lot of reasons. We noticed this a long time. This was one of the first anomalies when we were creating software back in the day. I'm like, that's weird. Why am I seeing this? And I remember I had my buddy on. He was in Texas, and he was looking at it, and we were seeing slightly different results on the search results page for, let's say you typed in pool float or whatever it was, right? And it would almost be the same, but by the time we got to the 18th product on the bottom, mine would be different than his. And then we would kind of go through and find out where that switch happened on the search results pages. And what we started to find out is obviously if you're not signed in incognito with your browser, it's going to pull up differently than if you are signed in with your regular browser and you've been cookied and pixeled, and Amazon's got data and they know what you're searching for, and they serve things a little bit differently to you than they would somebody else. The other thing that we noticed is that Amazon has warehouses all over the US, right? And what they want to do is they want to deliver products fast. That's one of their core values, right? We want to get stuff to people, before it was a few days, then it was 2 days, 1 day. Now they want it an hour, and pretty soon you're going to print it on your desk, right? It's going to be super fast. So they wanted to go really, really fast. So they're looking at the product, at the products that would normally show in those search results compared to where your geolocation is, and looking at whether you can get those products that would normally be displayed to you within the appropriate amount of time that they want those products to get there. So for example, and you've had this happen, guys, where you're running out of stock and suddenly you're out of stock everywhere. You only have a few units left and they're in the California warehouse. Well, if somebody is searching in New York for that product, right, and they type in the name, Amazon probably isn't going to show your product on the search results because they can't deliver. There's none in the warehouses over there, right, in New York. And they can't get the one from California to New York in the amount of time that Amazon Prime allows. So it won't even show up in the search results for somebody searching over there. Now, if I'm in California and I do that same search, boom, they can deliver it in an hour, right? A day, whatever. And then it actually shows. So you got to be careful when you're doing that kind of stuff because there's a lot of variables that Amazon's playing with that cause the search results to change slightly. And sometimes it's weird. I'll be on one browser. I'll do a search for something and it shows me like 18 results. The other one will be like 24. Mm-hmm. The numbers change. Yeah. They're constantly changing it up. I think they're split testing everything.
Yeah, and then one more thing too. Sometimes if you've already been searching for something in Amazon, you're like inside one of their departments already, and the results are going to look different. The Helium 10 keyword tracker is based on if you're in the all departments, if I'm not mistaken, part of it. So like, let's say you're searching for something in the health department, it's going to show up differently if you're just searching for products in that specific department, as opposed to the Helium 10 number, which is showing how it comes up in all of Amazon department search.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So we'll do this one last question right there. Click on the show.
Which one, right? This one?
Oh, wait, no. The one right above
this one?
Yep.
All right. From Adam.
Yeah. So how many, and then we'll end it at this one, guys. We wanted to do about 30 minutes. So how many keywords do you recommend using in one listing? Do you have recommendations for that?
For keywords, I want to make sure that I've got the top keywords in there. On the other hand, I want to put as many keywords as possible in my description and bullet points without making it seem like I'm just trying to keyword stuff. Nobody likes a keyword stuffed listing. In the back end keywords, you only have available 250 characters, so you don't have much room to mess around with there. But you've got to make sure that all of your top keywords that have high exact search results are very relevant to your keyword are all in your listing somewhere, and then get as many as the low-hanging fruit as well that makes sense, that's going to get you sales. But there's no real number that I pick for that.
Yeah, and honestly, you can put hundreds and hundreds of keywords in there, but if you start looking at if you sort everything by search volume, you're going to notice that the top, it's the 80-20 rule, right? The top 20% of the keywords are going to be generating 80% of the search volume. So if you just focus on that 20%, you're going to be pretty good. Usually, though, unless you're in a weird category, that top 20% is going to be able to make up most of those keywords below that you would normally add through some kind of phrase matching, right? Especially if you're using in Frankenstein. If you take all those keywords and put them into Frankenstein and eliminate all the duplicates, just a single word, you'll notice you'll go from a monster list, right? Like 12,000 words, and it'll come down to something like 120 words or something. It's crazy. So use as many as you can without making it sound too keyword stuffy. I like focusing on the big stuff, and then yeah, if there's big brands that you want to go after, be careful. Don't put that in your listing, but you can target them through PPC, and you should be good to go. So that said, yeah, we got through our first AMA, and this has been kind of cool. We want to do this on a regular basis. I think on the next few, I'm going to pop in whenever I can, but Bradley's going to take over and answer your questions. And you guys, if you have questions, you can send them in advance, kind of like we did right now, and we'll go through all of those. And yeah, what'd you think?
This is awesome. We had some great questions here, and the link I just threw up there, if any of your questions we didn't have a chance to get to it today, please resubmit them there, and we'll get to them on our next one.
Cool. Thanks, guys, for joining. If you have any questions for Bradley or myself personally that have nothing to do with this, just write them in the comments, and we'll get to you. Thanks, guys.
See you.
Have a good one.